Good luck, have fun, Simple.
Thanks.
All right, so this is any percent deathless or warpless, however you want to word it. This marathon run specifically is actually going to try to be deathless, but he's going to pick up 1-ups just in case something happens. This is also a 1cc category, which means no continues, no game overs. If that were to happen, it would disqualify the run. And also if he died, it would disqualify this run on our leaderboards specifically. He's only going to be using exploits, not glitches. And the only exploits that are really utilized are basically like XP abuse glitches, which you can, it's not a glitch rather, sorry. XP abuse, like overflow, which you'll get at the end of a palace. You'll get like a ton of XP and you'll use it to power yourself up like way more so than you would be early game for like a casual gamer. Other than that, all you do is like ferry through doors, which is also an exploit. You kind of just like softly go through doors without keys. It's pretty good. And that's like the only things that are kind of special about this run. You're going to be timing a lot of 6 counts with your enemies. Every 6 large or small enemy drops an item. If they're large, they drop large drops, like 200 P-bags, red jars. He's going to be utilizing a lot of early 200 P-bag XP drops, which are really great. He needs those early so he can get all of his attack up really high, his health up high, so he can survive these rooms that are coming up dark without dying in like 2 or 3 hits.
That's the whole run. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. GG. Right now he's getting the jump spell. There's very few spells picked up in this run, and jump is the very first one. You absolutely need it. There's a way to get around without jump, but it would take like over an hour, so there's no reason to skip it.
Yeah, you have to actually collect that trophy from the second cave you went in there to actually be able to get the jump spell. There's a lot of fetch quests in this game where you fetch an item to get a spell or a technique.
Yeah, and the cave coming up is probably the worst thing early on. There are two guys in the dark throwing boomerangs.
Normally at this point, the game would intend you to go to the east in the game, which is Palace 1. We will not be doing that first. He's going directly into the dark caves, which is...
Which are pretty OP without a candle. Yeah, these rooms will basically filter you out. Like Prez always says during these marathon runs, they basically made these rooms dark and full of like little enemies that'll throw stuff because it's meant to like show you you're not supposed to go this way. So it's pretty fun to like watch Simple or anyone do like crazy double hits on these areas early. So this one's like
who's got the double audio?
It's our host. This area in other categories, like any percent categories, you'd be able to skip. But we had to visit Bagu in this category, so we can get across the bridge. Otherwise, you can go get like ferry early and stuff, and just like hover across. There we go, nice. You gotta know Bagu. He is actually a swag monster. The guy is ripped. If you go look at like comics of this video game, you'll see Bagu just totally ripped, and he's like in a fight with Link in one of the images. It doesn't make sense because like he's your friend. So, but there's some canon like artwork where it's like he was fighting Bagu, but now he's cool with him, and so he like let across the bridge.
Oh, that'd been rad to have a Bagu boss.
I was thinking that like they should like had a side story, like side quest with Bagu. Like you go find him in that hidden area, and all you do is like talk to him. He's like, "What's up?" Talk to this guy.
So right here, Simple just got the life spell. You actually don't. This is one of those points in early gaming that's extremely painful, because the lady basically tells you she lost her mirror, but they don't tell you anything else. You're supposed to know that you need to go into that building and press the use button on a table, which you do nowhere else in the game, to get a hidden mirror. These games kind of relied a lot on Nintendo Power back in the day.
I feel like every NES game depended on you to just like pay Nintendo to tell you how to play them. Like they always set you up with something that you just don't find, like you'll just get stuck for like 5 hours. Like even Mario 1.
Palace 5 is actually Bagu and armor.
So Dark Death Mountain's pretty insane, but he basically knows the position of every enemy because they're in not like the craziest like positions. Like you can remember there's 2 bots early here, which are the blue slime, and then there's 2 little spear guys, and you can time your sword beam to go through them. So you want to have like full health coming in here because it makes it a little easier. Otherwise, Simple actually just has a strat where he just falling crouch stabs in a rhythm and just gets through them really fast.
There's a lot of RNG in these caves, so he will get hit occasionally from that. He's currently see him taking his levels. The leveling path in the run is actually extremely specific. Where he takes levels and how much XP he has, and which kills he gets is very important for this run, and which kills he skips too.
Yeah, every kill is super specific. Like, there's a reason for every kill that happens, basically.
Yeah, basically, if you take the wrong level somewhere, you can blow the whole run.
If you kill an enemy too early and just have your 6 count off, like...
Yeah.
So 6 count, that's a thing that probably people don't know about. You have different drop groups in this game. You've got a small drop group, a large drop group, and a no drop group. What that means is there's groups of enemies that fall into each of those categories. The small drop group has a 1 in 7 chance of dropping a 50-point P bag and a 7 in 8 chance of dropping a small blue jar. Whereas the large drop group has a 50-50 chance to drop a 200-point P bag or a magic filling red jar. That is on every 6th kill in that enemy group.
And this is the first shot of that big 6 count. He needs one 200 P bag basically in that mountain. He got a red jar on the first try.
That was his 6th kill of the large group.
So keep your fingers crossed for the second P bag. Or for the second drop to be a P bag.
It's gonna troll him. There's no way. So there's a 25% chance of not getting one. Across both of them.
Yeah, you keep adding it up as you go along, and you're like, alright, got the 12.5%, got the 8%. I think somebody got like 12 red jars in a row, or 14 red jars in a row for AK runs. That has like less than a 5% chance rate of happening. This game is so punishing. Like, if you don't get your red jars or 200 P bags, most people just reset. But luckily, Simple has like a marathon route for extra enemies and stuff for extra XP.
There's actually only one enemy in the screen here, and they can only be killed with a frame perfect trick.
Only one enemy. He's the smallest enemy in the game, and he kills you a lot.
Oh man.
Oh man.
Oh, he didn't
So
get
that-
the P bag either.
Yeah, so that's really unfortunate because there's a drop there on the way out, and then it's just gone now.
And that's why we call it Warpless for a marathon.
Yep. Because this will never, like, it. You can obviously be deathless in a marathon run, but you'd have to take it so safely in some areas. Like, it wouldn't be that fun to watch if you wanted to be safe the whole time. So this is like definitely a good showing of it. And he's gonna get the 1-ups that are outside of the route normally because this run is so like volatile. Like, you go into Valley of Death and stuff can just knock you in lava. You'll run out of enough magic to cast Fairy. You can just like expend 3 lives in Valley of Death so easily.
So what this means, since he didn't get the P-Bag, is he's gonna lose about a minute in Palace 1. Fix his 6 count and probably get a key in Palace 1 too.
Yeah, so now he has to get an extra key, yeah. So like, one little thing like this will spiral later into the run, into other splits, and he'll just lose time everywhere.
Yeah, it won't be until Palace 2 that he's going to be able to fix the 6 count.
So the thing he just got there is a magic jar. It's required that you get all the magic jars to be able to cast the Thunder spell to fight Thunderbird at the end of the run. Some particular runs will skip that enemy, but in this category you can't. So he must get all the magic jars. He will not be getting all the health containers though.
Yeah, there's only one that's like almost on your path, and he'll grab it. Because surprisingly, having only 4 bars, if an enemy can do like 1.5 to 2 hits on you, that's half your health, like right there. So getting 1 is like pretty huge actually. Coming up here, he has a pretty specific set path he wants to take to go get the medicine container, so he can go get Fairy and stuff.
This particular.
Or is this going to Palace 1 first? I forget.
Here, he goes to Fairy Town first.
Okay.
Medicine.
Yeah, you have to get Fairy. So here he's going to take a very specific path. It's like called the Boulder Dash, is what we like to call it. If he takes the encounter on a certain spot, he can get into the next cave, like really effectively and really fast. Otherwise, he can fix his step count by doing some extra steps somewhere. But he got the right spot to get the encounter. So now he's gonna basically drag out an encounter in two spots early.
The overworld encounters are effectively random, but they occur at a certain number of steps from when you enter the overworld. So it's controllable to know exactly where the actual spawns are going to happen. Which spawns you get, whether you get large or small or fairies, is random itself, but you can control when the spawns happen.
And then there's the fairies will always be random paths. Like the 2 that he dragged out there, you kind of know how they're going to act. It's kind of like Pac-Man where they react to you and then you can in turn react back to them. But then there's fairy encounters that'll come out which are completely random. They'll do their own path, so you kind of have to like roll with them no matter what. And then there's a 10% chance that you just get random walk in general, but without fairies. And you would notice it based on like them just sporadically go in different spots. And you would be like, okay, I need to just move away.
Link just got a tiny Link. He likes having dolls of himself, I guess. That's a 1-up.
Collect all the voodoo dolls so no one can take control of you. Who knows why they're there?
You don't hide voodoo dolls of yourself in swamps?
I mean, I guess I could see why he'd want to. The aesthetic.
So this is Fairy Town. The meta picked up he's going to be using to get the fairy spell, which is pretty much required for 80% to be able to fairy through doors. It's also required to get into P3 and to beat P6. He'll also be getting downstab, which is pretty much the best thing in the game, and the only reason that it's pretty you get downstab and you're gonna love the game for the rest of the game. You want to get this as early as possible.
Yeah, this move is broken. It's like actually broken. So there's like the jackhammer technique, or just in general the fact that you can hit down every time that you're in the air and he'll throw his sword blade out. So it's like multiple attacks. And then if you get yourself like on an enemy specifically, like on their head, and you're able to just like mash down, it's called the jackhammer, and you can just get like 10 to 20 hits off per second. Like it's pretty insane actually.
Yeah, it's all based on your mashing speed. It is completely OP. It's actually useful on enemies and bosses, which we'll see later.
Yeah, like a lot of the people have issues with like the blue iron knuckles, the guys that throw their swords, and Simple will basically blow through all of them with the jackhammer. So now he finally gets to Palace 1. And Palace 1 is super easy, since he already has Attack 3, Magic 1, Life 2.
Again, all of his overworld movements are very specific on how he moves and where he pauses. There are even slight pauses at certain points where he just lets off the D-pad for a moment or two. And that's all to control and manipulate the overworld movement and spawns.
Yeah, basically every overworld path you see him take has a purpose. This one out here behind P1 was pretty easy to get past. You just go like up and right a bunch, and then reactives are close to you.
It doesn't really seem like it, but the overall movement itself is you're going to lose massive amount of time. Once you get down to optimizing this game, you really need to optimize your overworld movement because it can cost you minutes. Each encounter is about 6 seconds, and that adds up really, really quick.
Yeah, as far as even like the top like 5 speedrunners, outside of like ProJan and Simpoldood, if you watch all the other runs, like most people lose over a minute to just encounters alone. Like the top runs, all the 115s and 116s, they basically lose like a minute, if not more.
So here's Simple getting a key, which wouldn't normally be gotten.
And it allows them to kill some extra stuff. Well, there's nothing on this way, but...
And normally you would just ferry through doors at this point, but because he missed the P bag earlier, the alternate path has to be taken here.
Yeah, all enemies must die.
Stalfos are unique in the fact that you cannot jackhammer them. Oh no. So this is where you would normally ferry, but Simple's gonna have to turn around and... Oh no, he won't. He's actually got good XP right now. You only need... This boss gives you 50 XP.
Yeah, that life 2 refill is...
Why am I short of it?
about 50.
Yeah.
But you can go back and... Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You gotta go back to kill the Iron Knuckle.
It's Roger.
Oh.
Never lucky. Luckily, all the XP he needs is in this palace.
And the reason the reason he's doing this is because he needs to be in the group to get 2,000. Here, you can see he's got 159 of 2,000. He needs to skip the level ups for the other previous 2 by getting enough XP to skip the level ups for Magic and Life. And that sets him up when he puts the Palace Gem in so that he can get full 2,000 XP.
Yeah, this is definitely abuse. Like, it's an exploit that they probably didn't see coming. Because there's some points in the game where, like, you could get to, like, Attack 8, Magic 1, Life 1, and then you could just get Attack 8 and then level 5 on both the other one. Like, no way that was intended. So we love it.
Well, considering it was, I mean, the Japanese version was completely different how they leveled.
Yeah. You could just get like max level 8 in like the first palace, right?
Yeah, the system was completely messed up.
So they try to revamp it and it's still kind of broken, but that's cool because we can speedrun it. So he did some specific movement here to drag out encounters early, so you could just take him over here on the road. He could definitely get away with it like he just did. That's pretty sick.
Nice swamp walk.
Very nice.
Yeah, the swamp usually is where people take their encounters just because like Link is too slow to do any kind of dodges. Like, you can do slinks through enemies, and you just can't do. But here is where he's getting his 6 count and everything back on track. There's tons and tons of enemies to like level up on here. There's like no reason to ever be under-leveled with Palace 2. This is probably the hardest palace in the game, because at this point you're still pretty like low level, and there's so many enemies and death traps in this palace.
That room in particular that he just went through with the bots on the bridge is particularly one of the nastiest points on the run.
He luckily had Sword Beam there, which is really nice, because you can take out those bots early, because they just jump at you, and if you try to jump at them, at the same time you're probably dead.
So oftentimes you'll see him bring up the start menu, or the spell menu. That's the pre-queue spells. Anytime you use a spell in this game, for instance ferrying, you'll have to re-queue the spell again to be able to cast it again.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. A lot of players like myself too, I'll like hit start and open up the menu immediately after using something so I can use it later, and then I forget if I open it or not. So like you see players constantly opening up their menu even when it's not necessary. You just forget if you select it or not. Only Zelda game that has tons of spells, except for maybe Breath of the Wild. I never played that. No spoilers, please.
So there he was able to set up a magic level up so that when he cast Fairy, he would then take the magic level up and immediately refill his magic bar. Also, ferrying when you grab an item will not play the animation of picking up the item, which saves some frames across the run.
Yeah, it's super useful. It saves like 2.5 to 3 seconds if you can get Fairy off immediately. Kind of like taking the death abuse.
Death abuse in Death Warp?
Deathless is already out the window. You have to take all the time saves now. Nah, normally, so like, what's really nice is in other runs, like glitch ones, you would have the ability to kill yourself immediately after grabbing an item with Fairy, and you would just refill your magic. But this run is like way more specific. Like every level up in red jar is like so necessary because like you can't take any death abuses. So this category is like insane. This is by far the hardest category in the game. Like in my opinion.
What he's doing now, by the way, he actually has enough experience to go on from here, but he needs the 6 count to be at the right place before Palace 3, so he just kills a few extra enemies to keep the 6 count at 5, leaving this palace.
Which sucks because he has so much XP right now. He has to still kill extra stuff.
Yeah.
Usually you'd be really happy to have this XP and not have to kill extra stuff, but like I said, the item drops are so damn specific. Like every one super matters.
Oh, yeah.
They got trolled there a bit on that boss fight. That boss fight, basically you want to like knock his helmet off early and then get on his head and jackhammer him. But he went off screen there a bit, which is the strat. Like you're supposed to have him near the edge so you can jackhammer him pretty easy. But he just walked off too early.
Yes, the second boss.
And then the fabled swamp exit.
Yeah, the 6 count is very specific for this run in the sense that he needs to maintain it all the way up through P5. It's timing the drops is pretty necessary to get a pretty good time in this.
Yeah. And having the drop happen right before Palace 3 gives him 1 extra chance for a red jar, because he needs 1 red jar to drop somewhere in Palace 3, or before.
This is pretty good team up.
You can farm jars off the statues at the beginning of some of the dungeons, but it's not preferable because it costs about 5 seconds each time you have to farm one. Like can build up pretty quick if you don't get lucky.
Yeah, so preferably he would want the red jar from this guy right here, or at the statue at Palace 3.
Those guys are the Guerilla. They're the same ones from, they're basically the mimics from A Link to the Past, which, well, this game came first, but for some reason they don't throw boomerangs in that game. They do here.
Yeah, they suck in here. This is by far the worst version of the Guerilla. Good enemy design, it just like sucks for early game. This palace has one more death room with bots and lava. Other than that, there's no more like get knocked in lava moments except for in Valley of Death.
Block room.
And the one in this palace is by far the worst.
Yeah. Every speedrunner that goes through the death bot room incredibly fast always has butt clenching moments. It's always great.
So we have not been talking about items at all. He's using, the technique he's using here to break the blocks is actually comes from an item he picked up in P2. We were talking about ferrying through door at the time, but the glove he picks up allows him to break these blocks with his sword.
So it's a 100% necessary item, because at the end of this palace actually you can't get to the boss without breaking blocks.
He won't be grabbing all the items. He didn't get the candle, but he will be getting the raft from here, which is required to get across the sea so that you can get to the second part of the game.
Yeah, Simple's pretty good in the fact that he skips every single crutch item. The only crutch that he takes in the run is life, like Squib said earlier, like he doesn't have to take it. And a death to a bot.
And that's why this room is terrible. Bots are literally the worst enemies.
100% luck, so yeah, they're absolutely garbage.
Bots are completely random. And they're probably harder than most enemies in the game. Solely for that purpose.
That was absolutely sick, throwing the beam as the red iron knuckles about to hit you in the back. Yeah, that room just takes patience sometimes.
So that was the first use of the jackhammer on him. Basically jump into the blue iron knuckle with the down stab, and as soon as it makes the first connection, you start to mash down. It takes one of the enemies that probably most people consider some of the hardest stuff if you're playing casually to become extraordinarily trivial.
They're like mini bosses to a casual player.
We cast jump on the way back here because it makes this room much easier to deal with. That's big of a problem when you can get them from above.
He was really hoping for a red jar from that statue. He unfortunately got knuckled.
Got nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing.
So this boss is interesting. You basically just stand on a magic pixel and kill him. I don't know if anybody's had that, but it's a pretty easy strat to do. Simple might actually go for a fast kill, but I would imagine since no magic, he's gonna go for the setup kill.
Otherwise, I would say this is probably the first genuinely difficult boss in the game if you don't know this trick. Namely, because you have to fight an iron knuckle.
And he throws his beams a lot different than regular iron knuckles. He always throws the triple beams out, and then once you take them off, he throws them like crazy, obviously, but he's consistently always throwing 3 in a row. It's way harder, for sure.
Weirds me out that he's got a metal flying horse, though.
Dude, it's heckin' cool. Comes flying in on the Iron Maiden.
Where did the cool metal flying horses go in this series?
This one is just full of horse anything. Horse heads. Horse head bosses.
I guess technically in the timeline this comes last.
Yeah, true. They finally figured out horses were cool.
It's gonna be 1290 for the P4.
You want to explain that, Horse Quips?
Yeah. Before entering Palace 4, he needs to gain some more experience because he wants the magic level up to happen at a certain point. So he's gonna need at least 1240, but preferably 1290 before entering Palace 4. Probably gonna see him kill some extra enemies on the way.
That experience will affect how he progresses through Palace 4 as well, depending on where he attempts to get kills. It'll shift his drop during it. This is one of the things about these runs that you need to be very aware of if a mistake happens or if something gets off count, how to fix it and where to fix it. And you have to stay pretty aware of how much exactly, how much XP you need exactly to enter each palace. You don't require it for regular gameplay, but for the speedrun, it's very necessary to constantly keep track of that.
That's some nice overworld dodge in there.
Yeah,
That's
and,
a pretty set pattern, but yeah, go on, Anthony.
the upcoming palace is the worst RNG part of the game too.
Wizros.
Since you need a big 6 count drop that's happened in that palace, and he wants a red jar out of that.
And you have to kill Wizrobes, right? You have to kill at least 2 or something?
If he gets the red jar, he's gonna kill 2.
Okay.
If he doesn't, he's gonna skip them and go outside and farm for a red jar in the statue.
And Wizrobes are pretty random. Like, as soon as you walk on the screen, like the first one you can get, like, on a set pattern. But outside of that, they're random.
So the reason he just picked up that kid there isn't because he's taking him back to daycare. He actually needs to pick up that kid and take them. It's a fetch quest item. You would normally have to go over here and learn that you need the kid first. But you can enter the maze and get the kid, and then I guess carry it in your backpack. And you use that to get the next spell, which is required to beat P4.
So in other categories, these encounters are skipped most of the times, but since you need some extra experience, you're just gonna walk through them.
Oh yeah, encounter skipping. We haven't talked about that at all.
Yeah, I guess you'll only see it during the Valley of Death area. But there's fixed encounters, basically like those 2 encounters you went through. You can actually wait 1 tile away from them, and then wait for like a triple encounter to come at you. And then as soon as they're close to you and you think they're going to come in, you can pause, and then buffer your input, unpause, and go into the encounter with one of the ones moving into you. And if it hits you first before you complete the full walk onto the fixed encounter step, you'll take the other encounter, which is only like it's like 6 to 7 seconds to get through it, and there's no bubbles that are coming out and just owning you. It's quite a bit faster. But those are the encounter skips are used everywhere, especially in other categories like 100% AK. You do it like everywhere constantly. You rarely go through a fixed encounter.
Yeah, here I think we're going to see it in Valley of Death and probably the fences. Maybe 1 fence for Riverwalk.
Yeah, the first fence is pretty like hard to get in this category. It doesn't have like a good setup, to be honest.
Yeah, it just feels pretty random to get it.
Yeah. But yeah, fixed encounter skips are pretty cool, but this area specifically is nice because he just like kills these guys for like 20 XP each, and he just bounces off their heads and they just die. It's really easy. I've seen speedrunners die in these screens. It's great.
It's always great when a speedrunner dies on the screen.
Yeah, and he's great. The ones with water They always get me. Another thing about dodging encounters is when he's out in the open fields versus like in the dark green tiles, the encounters will spawn far away. But if you're inside of a dark green field, they'll spawn really close to you. So he kind of wants to drag the encounters out as he's in like the green field, or in the sand. Sand is the same thing. That way he can like wait for them to come towards him and then he can dodge them. Otherwise, he has to preemptively pause when he knows the encounters are going to spawn when they're close to him, and then he can maybe slink through them when they get like half a tile into him.
Yeah, there are three kind of tiles where the enemies will spawn closer to you, and more often. It's the forest, graveyard, and at the end of the game in Valley of Death.
Yeah, like the darker sand. The red sand. That's why Valley of Death's pretty hard, is they're like always close to you, but you kind of know when they're gonna come out, so you can like pause and go around them and stuff.
For this maze, you really want to take the longest path possible through it. The shorter pathings actually have far more fixed encounters. So he takes a pretty specifically long path through there to avoid most of that.
Yeah, the longest path around the maze is actually the shortest path.
Put that on a fortune cookie.
Super deep. Yeah, these blue skeletons that hide in the holes, they're kind of annoying because if they jump and you don't down thrust over them properly, you'll just bonk the ceiling. So there's like a sweet spot you can go through where you hit through them as you down thrust, which is pretty cool. It's always nice to see someone hit that.
Yeah, and when he's coming back from getting the boots, this is where he's going now, he's gonna have to kill those guys too, and they can be real jerks and just stay down in their holes, and there's no way to hit them.
You just sit there, you stab at them hoping.
The boots are required as well. They allow you to walk on water, which is needed to get to Palace 5. Only some water, though. Water's picky about what you can and can't walk on.
There's sharks in the water. These block you. It's kind of nice to have the invisible walls, though. It makes so that there's like a secret area where you can get a heart, and it's hard to find. But we don't get that heart, so.
So what's coming up now is the big drop. We're hoping for a red jar.
Nope.
So he needs a red. He needs a magic refill, unfortunately.
Yeah, so now he's gonna have to go outside and farm for a red jar in the statue.
Oh, this guy's being really trolly. Yeah, this is another just adaptation you need for the run. For completing runs, this is normally, if you're actually doing a speedrun, you'd probably just reset at this point. For the marathon, I got the jar good. That can actually be a red knight as well, so you can force yourself to go, you have to exit the palace and then come back and try again, and if you keep getting it, you can keep getting unlucky and not getting a red jar there. I think it's 60-40, 40% red jar there.
On that specific point, it's supposed to be 50-50, but...
On the P4 one?
I didn't even know that, that's cool. Wonder why it's changed. That makes... I feel like that's a good grind spot for that reason. For XP, for casual players. All he needs is another fairy cast and reflect, and then this power.
He's gonna have to kill 2 extra enemies in Palace 5 to fix the 6 counts. But, you know, reframe.
The stream must have cut for a second.
It did. It was... It all... got messed up. So this is Karak, the worst boss in the game. You see Simple doing some amazing crouch strats where he stands up and crouches.
Yeah.
It's RNG manipulation.
Link's got buff legs.
Gotta get those squats in.
I think Zelda, yeah, dude. I think Zelda 2, Link has the buffest legs of any Zelda game. Just saying.
Pretty thick thighs.
They are, dude. They're as big as his hand.
That boss requires you to have the reflect spell, which is what we turned the kid in for earlier. So we turned the kid in for a reward and got a reflect spell for it. You cannot reflect those beams back to the boss without it.
Yeah, so you basically, if you don't have reflect, you just get there and die. And then you're like, why did I die? That's how the game wants you to learn.
And it can be, that boss is actually extremely trolly because it's 100% random. It can also just kill you randomly. It can keep spawning on you in the corner and you just die.
Yeah, it's not like, it's like Dracula in Castlevania, except for if Dracula were just 20 times faster. So there's just no way to go out there and fight him. Like, you just have to get lucky, like no matter what your strat is. It's kind of a bad boss in that way.
So this room is one where you would normally need the fairy spell in a casual playthrough, but in a lot of speedruns, there's a technique there called Eco Key, which lets you abuse a jump and bouncing off one of the bubbles in that room to skip the ability of having fairy. You still would need fairy before you got to that point for most runs. It does save, what, about 12 seconds, I think?
It's like
back
12, yeah. If you do it like really well and get the bubble out of your way fast, it's like 12.
However,
and then,
it does.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, however, it does eat quite a bit of mana. So.
Exactly. So if you can get your level up immediately after it gets like the red jar in the position he got, you would be able to be pretty safe. But he got that red jar earlier, which was really nice. He needed a magic refill.
In this palace, he won't be taking a level during the palace, so he just kills enemies to right place. Because he wants a big drop right before the boss.
Yeah, and luckily there's a red jar right before the boss as well.
Yeah.
These magos are pretty random too. If you want to kill them for XP, you should just let them like spawn in front of you. You should never like try to hunt them unless you fail like an eco key strat or something, because you could just potentially never kill them.
They do a massive ton of damage too if you do get hit by their fireballs.
Yeah, this palace is kind of a breeze for people of high level like Simple, but it's really not a joke. Like this room specifically, if you start getting in a bad pattern with these dog heads and like multiple are on screen, then you have the fire throwers, like you just take massive damage in that room. He almost got a sick little grab there. He just barely missed it. Your sword actually has to be inside of the item you're trying to grab for like several frames before it actually grabs it. So his sword went into the item, it just wasn't in it long enough.
I believe it's actually 4 frames exactly. We were testing that.
I think that's right, yeah.
So what he picked up was the flute. It basically has 2 purposes. To get rid of the river devil after this palace, and to make the 6th palace appear.
River Devil has some of the most amazing art in the game too.
Just a giant ass spider.
So this room he's entering here, he's already passed through it once, but he's going back through it. This actually was not a blue iron knuckle in the Japanese version. This is a second version of Horsehead from the initial palace. Why they got rid of that for this version, I don't know. It makes me sad.
Same thing at the boss fight in this palace. The Japanese version never got the Guma fights. The US version had it.
Yeah, it says Helmet Head again, right?
Refight with Helmet Head with more HP.
What happened? I don't know why they did that. They should mash the mini boss in with Guma. That would be perfect.
That'd be right.
So there, he did something pretty smart where he casted a magic spell, so he would start to have a little bit left when he was refilling after using another spell, and then grab the jar. So full magic again. Nice
Yeah. So
little
now
magic.
he has. Yeah. So now he has 2 life casts on this boss in case he gets trolled.
Yeah,
This
if he
boss
actually
is-
gets hit. Oh, nice, no hits. You would
Very
take like
nice
half your
hits.
health. Like if you got hit. Very nice.
That boss
Yeah,
is
that's
Guma.
the scariest boss in this category.
Yeah, there's a specific fight strat you can do on him where you can jackhammer into him, but it's super difficult to pull off, honestly. And it sometimes makes you get hit, and then so that you can fall into his hitbox. And Simple just doesn't want to do that here, with barely any health.
So here's the river monster. You need the flute for.
Oh, good patterns too. That was really
Oh,
nice.
nice. So this is an actual use of the encounter skip. He got an encounter skip there to skip one of these fences. So that small screen there was actually one of these that he overwrote by getting an encounter on top of the road tile.
Yo, that was some sick dodging, by the way. Like, little crouch between like 2 coconuts. These things are coconuts. I don't know. I don't know what you guys call them, but
I love it. They just
they just
got a lovely bunch of coconuts.
Exactly. Bunch of Wilsons throwing coconuts. So the only bad thing about this category is you have to come to New Kasuto, which sucks. It's like super far out of your way, but he has to get the last magic container there.
Oh, these spawns being really trolly.
Oh, Simple was almost a god. He saw a slink no one else saw there. That was pretty good. Yeah.
You see him doing a lot of pausing there in this section when he's doing those. That's we use pause buffer strats there to determine the pattern that spawned and how to like it gives you just a couple extra frames to like assess the situation.
He almost had that there too when he was pause buffering. He was like maybe a frame or 2 off on that encounter that pinched him.
Since he barely took any damage now, he can ferry the magic container and save a few seconds.
Yeah, it sucks you always have to just have full magic whenever you're entering a palace and stuff. Otherwise, you would just be expending it everywhere. Everywhere saves time if you cast Fairy, so... Yeah. Like the Tektite room is so nice if you have Fairy. Or Fire.
Yeah, for the spells we do not get in this run, there's a spell and a magic master key in that town. He doesn't get the shield spell, the fire spell, or the spell, as it's called, and he doesn't get the candle cross or the key. The key would have been in that town, as well as the spell. The master key basically prevents you from ever needing keys for the rest of the run. Obviously, he hasn't needed them because he can ferry through doors. And the spell is required to... Well, it's not actually required for anything. It just turns the enemies into bots.
Yeah, it's required casually, that's it. Because you would need it to get the actual magic key.
Yeah, that's the actual only requirement, is that you use it to get the master key. Otherwise, a lot of people will use it in Valley of Death on other runs to basically get rid of a lot of the flying enemies.
Yeah, it actually makes the end game actually really easy, like the easiest part of the game. But that's why this category is way more hardcore, and any category that doesn't get spell, for that matter.
This is another of those palaces magic refill to happen at a certain point. So he's going to be killing a couple of small enemies just to get on track.
Oh, I can't tell if you guys see on the wall.
No.
There's a nice little frame there that you can hit as you're falling, and you'll actually land on top of the ceiling. And you can skip the door.
So he needs 3830 exiting that lava room. So he's on some point.
Yeah, luckily those little enemies just give a decent amount too as you kill them. Those horse heads that he killed earlier in that lava room also, you basically have to kill. There's like there's like crazy strats you can do outside of killing them, or like use spell, but typically you just kill them and get them out of the way. Otherwise you'll just get knocked in no matter what.
Coming up, he's going to be fighting a boss we've already seen before. There are actually 3 bosses in this. There's 2 mini-bosses and the main boss in this palace. This is the Palace 3 boss revisited. We will only see one of these, though.
That was really nice how he stuck up on Rebo Neck there for a bit on his horse, which is actually really hard to do without getting hit yourself. So he knocked him off pretty fast, actually. There's like, sometimes you can kind of get locked into his hitbox early. You do like a short hop while you're down thrusting and hitting right. But if you don't get that, then just hovering on him is really OP, how he did that. So fight, Barba fight. He's gonna attempt a jumpless jackhammer. And if he doesn't pull that off, he's gonna take it a little safer.
Oh, nice.
So that's absolutely nuts. You basically have to time... Nice. The 1 cycle. I don't know if there's a little lag for me, but...
Very
you
nice.
basically have to 1 cycle him without jump, and then that's the fastest kill possible. And you'd have to know the timing. You have to have like an audio cue or have a visual cue for his head in order to do that. It's actually super hard, and only like 3 players do that maximum.
It's probably one of the hardest techniques in the game. Mostly because risk versus reward on that is just so bad if you lose.
Yeah. With jump, you save, or you lose like maybe what, half to maybe a whole second, not even a whole second. I think it's safer for getting all your hits off though. For simple at least. So yeah, now he has to deal with invisible flying enemies because he doesn't have the cross, so he can't see them. So he's in Valley of Death. He's going to be fighting through these invisible eyeballs constantly, and it's also in the dark. So you can't see like the large Lizalfos enemies. So he's going to use certain strats for certain rooms, like with the large versus having no blue Lizalfos, like the small versus the large encounters.
Yeah, it's the only place in the game where the overworld encounters are dark. You don't have the candle.
Yep, true.
But
Valley of
he just-
Death is crazy. Yes, sir.
What he just got there from the creepy old man in the basement of the abandoned town was the Thunder Spell, which is required to damage T-Bird. Doesn't do any damage to T-Bird, but it will allow you to actually hurt them.
See, I wonder if you could cast Thunder twice, if it would do any damage to him the second time. You need like a magic refill Game Genie code there.
So what he's doing here is he used up some of his magic to grab the red jar in this encounter, which gives him a free fairy cast, basically.
Yeah, the way red jars work in this game is they will fill your magic up completely, but they will do so by giving you as much magic as you possibly could have. Not just the amount that you need, but a full fill up. So draining it just a little bit by casting a spell, you will immediately get all your magic back. I think Magic Ladies give you 255. They give you 2 full rounds.
Yeah, I think it's full 2 once you got all the magic containers. So early on, it's like 3 to 4 bars.
You just got through one of the worst rooms in the game, damageless. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's super lucky, and also that just shows a lot of knowledge of how they work in general and how he should be placed for the least amount of hits. A little bit of both. And all of his encounter skips were pretty flawless. He just got 1 extra encounter earlier that he could have avoided, but like RNG basically didn't allow him. So that was a really good valley.
That was a pretty brilliant Valley of Death all the way through.
He destroyed it.
Yeah, that was damageless.
That was amazing.
That's definitely the hardest part in the game in most categories. So. At least with world record strats, like we were saying earlier, you can make it easy, but world record strats are absolutely insane there. So he should do pretty fine here. He's good on lives. He has a few chances at red jar drops here. Any hits he takes, though, any hits that are taken like directly from the spicy chickens or the blue iron knights, they'll do massive damage to him. So he does have to be a little safe. He can take deaths like nothing here, but he has quite a few left, so that's good. Also, if he were to die in game over, he would start at the beginning of GP. It's the only spot in the game that allows you to start at the beginning of its own palace.
Yeah, the Iron Knights in this have a name that can't really pronounce on stream, specifically because it sounds pretty bad.
Well, they released that movie Meet the Fockers, and there's no problem with that.
That's true.
The same difference, actually, so that you can kind of figure out their name based on that movie title.
Link is now Robert De Niro.
Yep. That's Billy Crystal.
As
That
Billy
red-
Crystal.
This spicy chicken right here, specifically, that he's going through is so annoying because he's always at the edge and he falls off there. He's always throwing an early flame that goes, like, you just take so many hits there, man. Nobody consistently gets past him. He's based on luck, for sure. You can react to him, but you just have to go slow. For right now, he's skipping that red jar up there because he's pretty good on magic. He has another life cast as well. This blue guy will do massive amount of damage if he hits him directly like he just did. He wants to stay safe and cast life immediately. But a really good escape from that guy. That was really good. You kind of had to like butt clench sometimes with a blade right behind you and just go for your jump and get the double block break, which is also like pretty frame perfect. You have like a 2-frame window to break those blocks and actually enter at the same time. So it's pretty sweet. That's a hardcore room.
Oh, that's probably the hardest room for a good portion. I would say that's for a good portion of the categories in this game. That's probably one of the hardest rooms.
Yeah, every time you basically do that room a little differently, because he jumps so sporadically. Another good blue knight room. That's the last of those guys. They're like big brothers to bots, in my opinion. Nice little enemy hug. So like sometimes you'll notice like when he grabs an enemy with his down thrust, he'll just kind of like sink into him really fast and drop really quickly. That shows you're a pretty good player if you're like getting right in the hitbox like before you're about to get hit. Technically, he could have taken a death fuse here to refill, but since it's still a deathless category by nature, he's not wanting to do that. Doesn't want to take any intended ones. So Okay, he has a second shot at a red jar here. Otherwise, he needs to reset the room by walking
to
out.
death.
For marathon's sake, it would you could literally sit here for 30 minutes and never get a red jar. So since he's already died, you might as well take the death again.
Each of those spawns there could have been a red jar, but
Yeah, that's 50-50. But yeah, you can still get 20 red knights. So here's Thunderbird. Go for speed.
oh, it's Thunderbird.
Yeah.
I like how you just threw that at me. Yeah, so Thunderbird is the penultimate boss in the game. They have 2 phases. He's kind of already gotten through it. You need Thunder spell to actually do damage to it, and then in his case he casts Jump as well, which lets him do quite a few stabs on the face. You can only do damage if you hit the gem right above the head. There's a very small hitbox on T-Bird.
Yeah, and his strat there was pretty badass. He went for the jump strat, which is the most difficult, but the fastest way to kill him.
Very soon.
Yeah, after Link stops moving, you'll see him walk right, and then when he stops moving. And pretty simple time. That was a pretty simple fight.
And with that,
all that happened
Simple
there,
finishes
that's very
his
good
rank
time.
with a time of
Very,
101.09.
very unlucky with the drops.
Thank you. Thank you, Zelda.